Wow, this is a deep dive into a really dark corner of true crime.
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
we're going deep into the unsettling case of Tamara Samsonova.
Uh-huh.
She's known as the Granny Ripper from St. Petersburg, Russia.
Right.
And you've brought a really interesting mix of sources this time.
Yeah, I tried to get a nice little,
Just ready for you.
we have that CNN report that initially broke this story, and then we have a really interesting and detailed and very conversational account from the YouTube creator Bailey Sarian,
Yes.
and of course the factual backbone we get from Wikipedia. Plus, another news source that unfortunately ended up being a page not found.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, but
I thought it was gonna be a good one too.
yeah, so we have a lot to go on, and I think our mission here is to take all these different angles, different levels of detail,
Right.
and really understand the core of what happened here. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting how you have the CNN report that's very much like,
Yeah.
this is what happened, this is breaking news.
Yes.
And then you have Bailey Sarian's very conversational, kind
Yeah.
of in depth. She really goes into a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting way to get this story told.
Well, and to really, really grab your attention right off the bat. I mean, just imagine this. You discover that your seemingly sweet elderly neighbor
Right.
is actually leading this double life
Yeah.
that involves, multiple murders, the dismemberment of bodies, and even allegations of cannibalism. I mean,
Yeah.
that is the chilling reality that we're going to navigate
Yeah.
in this deep dive.
Absolutely.
So where does this story actually begin?
Well, Tamara Samsonova was born on April 25th, 1947,
Okay.
in a town called Uzur, which at that time was part of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and Uzur, I looked it up on the map, and it's this pretty small town.
It's almost jarring to think about these horrific events later on, and it started in this tiny little government affiliated town
Yeah.
in central Russia. It's really interesting.
So after high school, she decided to take a big leap
Yeah.
and traveled all the way to Moscow
Wow.
to attend the Moscow State Linguistic University.
Okay.
And that's a good 14-hour journey.
Yeah.
So she was clearly, intelligent, driven,
Right.
wanted to pursue language studies in this major, intellectual hub.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because you think about her diaries later.
Yes.
And how important those were to the case. That
Yeah.
They were in multiple languages.
Yeah, Russian, English, and German.
Yeah, so that language, I think, really played a part
Yeah.
in her life, so to speak.
Yeah, she moved again after that.
Okay.
This time to Leningrad,
All right.
which we know as St. Petersburg now.
Yeah.
Early 1970s, and it's there that she met. And in 1971,
Okay.
married a man named Alexei Samsonov.
They seem to have a relatively normal life,
Yeah.
They lived in one of those Soviet era prefabricated panel buildings
Right.
that were so common, all over the
Yeah.
Soviet Union, just to house all these people that were coming in
Yeah.
after the Second World War.
Yeah.
It was a quick and inexpensive way to build housing.
Right.
But yeah, so they had that typical Soviet urban life, it sounds like.
Yeah, she used her language skills in her career,
Mm-hmm.
first working as a travel agent,
Oh, wow.
and then for 16 years at the Grand Hotel Europe,
Okay.
which is a very prestigious hotel,
Yeah.
that hosted a lot of international visitors.
Yeah, and it seems like she was good at her jobs.
Yeah.
She was good with people in the travel agent role, and then
Yeah.
obviously to hold that job at that hotel for 16 years, you have to have
Yeah.
some social competence.
Right, right.
So it makes it even more shocking what we find out later.
So then, shortly after she retired in 2000...
Her husband, Alexei, vanished,
Oh, wow.
and she reported him missing to the police, suggesting that he'd run off with another woman.
Oh.
And unbelievably, that case remained unsolved for years.
Yeah, that's really a pivotal moment, I think, when you look back,
Yeah.
knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
That's when things, I think, really started to go south.
Yeah.
And of course, they suspect now that she may have been involved in his disappearance.
Yeah.
So who knows how long this had been going on.
Yeah, so she started renting out a room in her apartment.
Okay.
But it seems like her tenants never stayed very long.
Really?
And neighbors reported frequent disturbances,
Like what?
like loud banging noises, shouting, coming from her apartment,
Oh, wow.
suggesting that she was a very difficult person to live with.
So it seems like there was this outward appearance
Yeah.
of this polite elderly woman,
Yeah.
but underneath there was this volatility and
Right.
or maybe even some really deep, dark problems.
Yeah, she was also a big diary writer.
Oh, really?
Kept these very detailed journals over the years in Russian, English, and German.
Wow.
And they weren't just about daily life. They contained her thoughts and, chillingly, confessions to murder.
Oh my gosh.
And she also reportedly had a keen interest in the occult and astrology.
Oh, that's interesting, the multilingual thing again. It just makes me think about, you know, what kind of mindset does that?
Yeah.
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah. So then let's fast forward a little bit to 2014.
Okay.
Tamara is having her apartment renovated. And she's introduced to a 79-year-old woman named Valentina Ulanova.
Okay.
Who lived on the same street. Valentina was looking for help around the house.
Yeah.
And Tara, who was 68 at the time, offered to move in temporarily while her own apartment was being worked on.
That seems like, you know, the start of this whole thing.
Yeah.
The documented crimes. It just goes to show how, like, a normal situation can turn dangerous really quick.
Yeah. So at first it seemed like a mutually beneficial arrangement, but it quickly soured.
Oh.
And Valentina asked Tamara to move out.
Okay.
But she refused.
She refused to leave.
Yeah.
That's a little red flag right there.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone asks you to leave their house, you leave.
Yeah.
So I wonder what was going on there.
Then in July 2015,
the
situation escalated.
Uh-oh.
During an argument over unwashed dishes.
Oh, wow, really? Dishes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a disturbing trigger.
It is.
That something so small could set someone off to do something so horrible.
Yeah. And it was after this fight that Tamara decided that she needed to, quote, get rid of Valentina.
Oh, gosh.
So she traveled to the nearby town of Pushkin.
Oh, okay.
And convinced a pharmacist to sell her 50 pills of phenazepam.
50 pills? Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
It is. And it's a prescription tranquilizer.
Right.
It's a benzodiazepine, similar to like Valium or Xanax.
Okay.
It's used to treat anxiety and insomnia.
I mean, to get that many pills is kind of crazy. Like, you think about how hard it is to get prescriptions filled these days.
Yeah.
And she just went and got 50.
Yeah. And so she went back to Valentina's apartment, prepared one of her favorite meals, an Olivier salad.
Oh, okay.
That traditional Russian, you know, mix of diced vegetables, meat, mayonnaise.
Yeah.
And into this, she put all 50 of those pills.
Wow.
And served it to Valentina.
That's really calculated and
it is
cold. You know, it's not like a heat of the moment kind of thing.
No.
She really planned it out.
Yeah. So around 2 a.m., Tamara found Valentina's lifeless body on the kitchen floor.
Oh, God.
And because Valentina was too heavy for her to move to the bathroom, Tamara dismembered her right there in the kitchen.
Oh, my God.
Using 2 knives and a saw.
I mean,
I know.
That's just, it's so brutal.
It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, and just the fact that it was in the kitchen.
I know.
You know, like with common household tools, it's so visceral.
It's very disturbing.
Yeah.
She then wrapped the remains in pieces of a shower curtain.
Okay. Put
them in plastic bags and made 7 separate trips to a nearby pond.
7 trips.
7 trips.
That's a lot of going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's almost like she was almost trying to get caught or something.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just so strange.
Yeah. So 3 days later, a couple walking their dog found a bag containing Valentina's headless and limbless torso.
Wow.
And of course that triggered the police investigation.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not? The body was dismembered. That's a huge red flag right there.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is the police had already received a call on the night of the murder from someone who had witnessed Tamara by the pond dropping bags.
Oh, wow.
Also, a social worker had tried to visit Valentina.
Okay.
It was turned away by Tamara.
Oh, so they were already kind of onto her.
Yeah, so when the police went to Valentina's apartment, Tamara answered the door.
Wow.
And inside they found traces of blood and a torn shower curtain. And when they questioned her, Tamara confessed to murdering Valentina almost immediately.
Wow, really?
Yeah, she detailed the argument over the dishes and everything.
Wow. I mean, that's kind of a strange reaction,
Yeah.
you know, to just immediatty confess. Like,
Yeah.
maybe she was just resigned to it. Or maybe she wanted to get caught. Or who knows, maybe she didn't even realize the enormity of what she had done.
Yeah. So following her confession,
Uh-huh.
the police searched her apartment and they found her diaries,
Okay.
the ones in Russian, English, and German.
Right.
And these diaries revealed a much, much darker and wider scope of criminal activity.
Than just Valentina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible how these personal ratings became
I know.
like key evidence
Yeah.
in this case.
It's really kind of terrifying to think about that,
Yeah.
like, your diary could be used against you in that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good thing they found them.
Yeah, so one entry confessed to the murder of a tenant named Volodya
Okay.
sometime after her husband disappeared.
Right.
She described killing him during a quarrel, dismembering his body in the bathroom,
Oh, wow.
and disposing of the remains in different places.
So this Volodya, was he like
He was a tenant.
a tenant? Okay.
Yeah, so this could explain why tenants didn't stay very long.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thought.
The diary also talked about the murder of Sergei Potnin,
Okay.
a 44-year-old tenant from Norilsk back in September 2003.
Right.
Again, she described dismembering his body and disposing of it in different locations.
And get this. In 2003, a headless, armless, and legless man's body
Oh my God.
was found on the same street.
Wow, what are the chances?
I know, that she had mentioned in her diary.
That's crazy.
And that case had remained unsolved
Right.
until they found her diary.
Wow, so she basically solved a cold case
I know.
with her own confession.
Incredible.
It's really something.
And to back this up even further,
Uh-huh.
they found Sergei Potanin's business card
Wow.
and traces of his blood in her apartment.
So she kept a souvenir?
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
Her diary entries consistently describe dismembering the bodies in her bathroom
Mm-hmm.
and then distributing the parts in plastic bags all over the city.
Wow.
And then, this is where it takes an even darker turn.
Oh, no.
The diary also reportedly contained references to cannibalism
Oh, my God.
and the occult.
Really?
Yeah.
What did she say?
Well, she wrote about cutting out and consuming lungs, legs, and pieces of the head.
Oh, that's so disturbing.
And while the police could never confirm cannibalism
Right?
because, well, there wasn't any evidence.
Right, because she ate it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tamara herself reportedly told police that her diary entries were accurate.
That's just a whole other level of horror.
It is. It is.
You know, it's one thing to commit murder, but to then
I know.
engage in cannibalism, it speaks to such a
I know.
disturbed mind.
Yeah. And so police now suspect that she was also responsible
Uh.
for her husband Alexei's disappearance back in 2000.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
right.
You know, with the pattern that we see, it's very likely that he was her first victim.
Yeah. And it's really disturbing to think about.
Yeah.
Because his body was never found.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about her behavior after she was arrested.
Okay.
It was very unusual.
In what way?
She was seen blowing kisses in court.
Really?
She seemed happy to be in custody and even told reporters that she was, quote, haunted by a maniac upstairs who forced me to kill.
So she's blaming it on someone else.
Yeah, that's a pretty, strange thing to say.
That's kind of classic, like not taking responsibility
Right.
for your actions. And maybe she really did believe that, you know? It's hard to say.
And she gave contradictory accounts to the police.
Like what?
She claimed at one point to be a talented actress.
Okay.
And a graduate of a prestigious ballet academy.
Uh-huh.
And then she said she worked at a prestigious hotel.
Right.
Neither of which seemed to line up with her background.
Yeah, so she's clearly got some issues there. I mean.
Yeah, so they did a psychiatric evaluation on her.
Okay.
In November 2015.
Uh-huh.
And it was determined that she was a danger to herself and society.
Right.
She was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
And deemed unfit to stand trial.
So she's not going to be held responsible.
Well, not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
So as a result, she was sent to a specialized hospital in Kazan for compulsory psychiatric treatment.
Yeah.
In December 2015, and she's still there today.
So she's basically going to be there for the rest of her life.
Yeah, most likely.
Hmm.
Her neighbors also shared some interesting things.
Oh, really? Like what?
About her behavior leading up to her arrest.
Okay.
They recall her walking around in her pajamas at night, having what seemed like paranoid conversations with herself.
Wow.
And a disturbing interest in Andrei Chikatilo.
The Red Ripper.
Yes, the Red Ripper.
That's disturbing.
Yeah, and one neighbor even remembered lending her a hacksaw years before that she never returned.
A hacksaw?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, it's very unsettling to think about.
Yeah, I mean, these little details, it's
Yeah.
like it was all there, but
Yeah.
nobody put it together.
Yeah. It was also revealed that she had been in and out of mental institutions,
Oh, wow, really?
at least 3 times in the 15 years before her arrest.
So there was a history there
Yeah.
of mental illness?
Yeah, and a former school friend said that Tamara had threatened her
Oh, wow.
not to reveal that she had supposedly killed her mother-in-law.
Oh my gosh, so this is a pattern of behavior that goes way back.
Yeah.
It's really scary
It is
to think
certainly.
about,
Yeah.
how long this may have been going on.
So officially, she's linked to the murders of Valentina Ulanova and Sergei Tan
Right.
through concrete evidence.
Yeah.
But her diary entries suggest up to 14 deaths,
Wow.
including former tenants and her husband.
So we may never know the true extent
Yeah.
of her crimes.
Yeah.
That's kind of unsettling to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, and her motives, they're still largely unknown.
Yeah, what was her motivation?
Well, she mentioned wanting peace after killing Valentina.
Okay.
And she even said she'd been preparing for this for 10 years. 10 years. Yeah, and unlike a lot of female murderers,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't seem like it was driven by passion or money.
Right.
Some people think it was her mental illness,
Yeah.
but her diaries hint at the occult as well.
Yeah, it's really hard to say
It is.
what was going through her mind. And
Yeah.
and I think that's what makes this case so fascinating
Yeah,
and so disturbing.
right.
It's like a puzzle that we can't quite solve.
Yeah, and as of today, Tamara Samsonova is still alive
Oh, wow.
in a high-security psychiatric prison hospital.
So she's never going to see the light of day,
Right.
most likely.
Yeah, and the authorities doubt she'll ever give a full account
Yeah.
of all of her crimes.
I mean, with her mental state, it's unlikely that
Yeah.
she'll ever be able to give a coherent
Right.
account of everything that happened.
So we've come to the end of this truly disturbing deep dive,
Yeah.
and you now have a good understanding of the Granny Ripper case, from her seemingly ordinary background to the events leading to her arrest,
Right.
the chilling details from her diaries,
Yes.
and all the unanswered questions about her motives and the full number of her victims.
Yes. Yeah, it's really a case that sticks with you. It does,
Okay.
it makes you think about the dark side of human nature
Yeah.
and how someone who seems so normal on the outside
Right.
can be so evil on the inside.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder,
Mm-hmm.
what secrets people are hiding.
Right. Like you look at your neighbors and you wonder,
Yeah.
what are they capable of?
And I think the really thought-provoking thing here
Uh-huh.
is this whole idea of mental illness and criminal behavior.
Yeah, how do you reconcile that? She was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia,
Right.
and she claimed to be controlled by this outside force.
Right.
So is she really responsible?
Right.
It's a question that I don't think we have an answer to, but it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the other thing that's really disturbing is this whole fascination she had
Yeah.
with other serial killers.
Yeah, like Chikatilo.
Right. And that makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what is it about, our psychology that draws us to this?
Yeah, why are we so fascinated with true crime?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fascinated by it too.
Yeah.
But it's a strange thing, isn't it? To be interested in these dark aspects of human nature.
Yeah, I think it's a case that's going to leave us with a lot to think about
Yeah,
for a long time to come.
absolutely.
So thank you for bringing this to us.
They're welcome.
It's been a really interesting
Yeah.
but disturbing deep dive,
It has.
and we'll see you next time for another one.
Sounds good.